Hey everyone, it's Jason, and these are 6 events that changed the cruise industry as we know it today. And if you stick around to number 6, I believe we're about to witness another event that's going to change the cruise industry for many years to come. So number 1, have you ever wondered why cruise lines don't allow smoking on their balconies or their cabins? Well, this was directly linked because of the 2003 Star Princess fire. Someone was smoking in their cabin, they fell asleep, and it caught the cabin on fire. They unfortunately passed away, and 11 other people were injured. But if you look at this picture here, it's amazing more people weren't killed or injured as the crew members really stepped up and saved lives. But most cruise lines at the time allowed smoking on balconies and in cabins. In fact, all that I can remember. Well, almost immediately after that, most cruise lines changed their policy that you couldn't smoke in cabins and you could still smoke in the balcony on the balconies. Now the interesting thing is a couple years later, Celebrity came out with the Celebrity Solstice class. And it was the first one. It was revolutionary at the time. No smoking inside, no smoking in their cabins, no smoking on balconies. And it was because of this Star Princess fire. And a lot of it put pressure on the rest of the cruise industry. And you saw other cruise lines fall in place with them. Now the interesting thing is Princess was actually one of the last to change on their balconies. And it's one of the reasons why we tried Celebrity. We had been on 6 to 8, I can't remember, Princess cruises at the time. We went over to Celebrity, we fell in love with it, and it's kind of been our cruise line ever since. So that's an interesting thing that happened due to the 2003 Star Princess fire. Do you remember that event? So number 2, can you imagine not being connected at sea? Now I know many people shut their phones off or they don't really use the Wi-Fi package, but you do have access. If you need to talk to someone, you can. If you need to get in contact with someone, if there's an emergency, you can. Well, it was not that long ago, you couldn't. In 1999, the first internet cafe was born, and it was on the Norwegian Sky. Now, I remember 2003, we were on the Grand Princess, and I remember trying to get online, and it literally took 15 minutes to just get into my email. And it was Yahoo at the time, and I couldn't believe how slow it was. It was awful. So you really just didn't check it that often because you had to buy it by the minutes. So I would buy 150 minutes. I would check my internet, like my email, once a day. Well, what was interesting is we actually got robbed. Our house was broken into. Now we had an alarm, so it set it off and cops came out. Everything was good. But we didn't find out until 4 days after. My dad had drove down, boarded up my house. So it's a really crazy thing is we just didn't have the access. And it's just wild to see how much things have changed. And in really the last 5 to 7 years, we've really seen internet really get much better on cruise ships. Do you remember a time when there was no internet on cruise ships at all? I don't remember that, so let me know in the comments if you do. So number 3, did you know up until a few years ago, most cruise lines still used paper charts? So what was interesting is in 2013, NOAA announced that by 2025, they would completely phase out all paper charts. It was just going away. So that caused the cruise industry to have to make some changes. And it wasn't until like 2018 that some cruise lines stopped. I remember we were on a Celebrity cruise and I asked a staff captain, I'm like, do you still use paper charts? And he was like, absolutely, but we're phasing it out. And I said, well, what happens if you have no navigation? Everything goes. And he goes, we'll do Celestial. Which I thought was really interesting because when I got my 100-ton master, Celestial was not a requirement. But as you went up to like 200 and above, you needed to learn Celestial. And it's not super easy to learn. That is a difficult thing. So really interesting there. Do you guys remember when you'd walk up to the pool deck area and they would have the paper chart there every day and the course would be charted? Let me know in the comments. So number 4, and this almost caused the collapse of the cruise industry, and at one point, I thought it was a goner, and that's the pandemic. Cruise lines had to go billions and billions of dollars in debt just to try to stay afloat. There was also 38 cruise ships that were scrapped because of the pandemic. In 2019, there was one cruise ship that was scrapped. Carnival Corporation had 21 ships leave their fleet, and the Fantasy class was wiped out as 6 of the 8 ships were scrapped. How many cruises did you have canceled due to the pandemic? So number 5, and have you ever been on your cruise and heard this announcement? We cannot leave port today until everyone has participated in the muster drill. Well, this safety precaution goes directly back to the 2012 Costa Concordia incident that took over 30 people's lives due to the captain's negligence. There were many safety precautions that have been put in place because of that incident. And cruise lines took it a step further, making their captains reach out to their command centers when they were going to veer so many miles off course. I had a captain tell us that if he didn't reach out to his command center and make certain moves, the cruise ship would have a new captain the next time they were in port. It was that serious that he reached out to the command center, and I appreciate that very much so. So, do you remember that 2012 Costa Concordia incident? So before I get to number 6, I would ask that you please like this video, as it does help the channel grow. Also consider subscribing, as I do daily cruise news shorts and tips and tricks. I also do longer videos on Saturdays, Sundays, and Wednesdays at 8 a.m. Thanks so much. So number 6, and this goes back to my intro, and I believe the icon of the seas, good or bad, is going to have an impact on the cruise industry for many years to come. It'll be interesting to see if it can live up to this media hype. And let's face it, Royal Caribbean has done an amazing job marketing this ship. Will it live up to all the hype? It'll be interesting to see. Now next week, I'm going to do my 2024 cruise predictions, and I'm going to dive deeper into the icon of the seas and my thoughts. So make sure you're there. So I appreciate you guys watching. Yes, I did leave out the Titanic because it happened over 100 years ago, and none of us were around when that happened. So what do you guys think about my list of 6? Do you remember most of these incidences? I can't wait to hear from you guys in the comments. So I appreciate you watching. Until I talk to you next week, happy cruising.